Hello, welcome to this live broadcast on QTV, and I am Mamadou Mboj. This is a Ministry of Transport program, and we are here to talk about how to prevent road traffic accidents. We know that, well, according to one of our panelists today, I will introduce you to him, road traffic accident is the #1 killer of people between 5 and 25 years old. And according to the police statistics, 155 deaths in 2021 around the world. We know that you have 3,700 deaths a day. So a worthy topic to discuss. And today, I've got in the studio 3 people. One, from the Ministry of Transport, the sponsors, as it were, of this program, Mr. Ansumana Kasama. You are Kasama K, and I will explain to the viewers why I need to make that emphasis later.
All right, no problem.
Yes, and then sitting on your right, there's Mr. Bakari Mane from the National Roads Authority. And here on my left, I've got Mr. Momodu Gassama. So this is the distinction, the G and the K from the World Health Organization, who is the health promotion specialist and also a member of the Road Safety Technical Working Group. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Or sometimes, as I say, since it's your program, you welcome me to your program.
Welcome to your program, Mr. Boy.
Okay, so this program, is it part of an initiative, a new drive to tackle this menace? We all know that, the statistics tell us that. Or is it part of an ongoing initiative? Let me begin with the representative from the ministry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mboj, and thank you, all the listeners out there. This program is an initiative, but it is part of the work plan, the Road Safety Annual Work Plan, which is prepared by the Technical Working Group, and we devise programs and then and activities as well. So this program falls under the advocacy program to create awareness among the citizenry, among all road users. So it's an ongoing initiative.
It's an ongoing initiative.
Yes.
Mr. Mane from the National Roads Authority, your perspective on this?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Mboj, and thank you once again for having us here. Of course, like Ansumana, my colleague, said, the National Roads Authority is also a member of the Road Safety Body Working Group and the agency or whatsoever at the ministry's level. Actually, like he said, this one is an awareness program. We intend, and we did it last year. This is not the first time. Last year we did it, and we were coming here. Our objective is to filter down the basic road safety road safety initiative that the ministry is heading or is coordinating. That is the Road Safety Body Working Group, and the yes. So it's an ongoing program. Like we all know, sensitization or advocacy is not one-off. It's a continuous process because every day people are using the road. So our target is to minimize the road crisis that we have in this country. And interestingly enough, our targets out there is people need to know how to use the road, and that will basically help the Gambia to bring our good names in olden days that we were, one of the few countries who, our stand in road safety, was good, and we want to go back to, if not lead, but not to be on the danger point on the wall concerning about the road crisis in this country.
That's it. And you, Mr. Gassama, the other day, a few days ago, at a forum. That was where you gave the statistic. In fact, when I said what I said earlier, that road traffic accident being the #1 killer, I was actually quoting you. So this is the context, isn't it, in which you have to work to bring about a change. Give us more of that.
Thank you very much. I think this is I also have to thank government, Minister of Transport, and of course the National Roads Authority for this excellent initiative. This shows you that road safety is a complex phenomenon. It cannot be handled by a single entity alone. What we are here for today is to discuss, well, education is part of the 3 E's. If you look at the 3 E's, enforcement, education, and of course engineering. These are very critical components of road safety. So we are now on the E, which is education. Education also hinges on prevention, and that's the subject of the discussion today. Now, if you look at this holistically, like at the beginning, you were asking us to lead the way, but to have this substantive discussion on this, you need to look at prevention looking at 3 factors, the interaction of 3 factors. And you now look at that by phases. These factors are the human factor, #1, the human factor, the vehicle and the equipment factor, and the environment factor. And now you look at pre-crash, during crash, and post-crash. So prevention is in all these facets.
So this complex
it's a very
of
complex
people, vehicles, and road infrastructure.
That's it. So we can unpack this now. The human element will come, all the risk factors surrounding the human element, what the error that we do on the road. Then of course the other one, will be a big, huge one, which is the vehicle itself and the equipment there. And then the third one is the environment. That's why he's here. The road, that's that external environment. So this interaction, this is what the experts say. When these 3 factors interact, that's the time we have an accident. We call it an accident. And they are in phases. Pre-crash, before the crash, that's the prevention now. But again, prevention continues during the crash to reduce the injury, preventing people from injury. Another prevention comes now, life-saving, which is the post-crash. And that's where the hospital will come. So you'll be having a lot of people from diverse areas for discuss this. Maybe later they will invite doctors to come to the program to discuss. So it's not one size fits all, it's not one entity. You'll be seeing a lot of people here who will be now discussing a particular part or section or a particular issue on road safety.
Absolutely. So now let's go into the details. We know what the situation is. Now, what's the plan, Minister? No, from the representative from the ministry.
Yes.
What's the plan? What are you going to do?
Yes, the plans are out there. There's a strategy to follow, like our Bibles and our Qurans, so that we avert some of the situations or some of the incidences that are happening on our roads. Part of those plans, we have the education. Education is one of the strategic directions that we are taking as stakeholders. Not only the ministry, but together with WHO, National Roads Authority, the Gambia Police Force, and other relevant institutions. And then in that also, enforcement, which is also key, is also a strategic direction that we should focus on.
But then, you're with the Ministry of Transport, so that element would include the police, interior, so it includes all the stakeholders, isn't it? That is the key about these things. There are so many stakeholders that really sort of are relevant to it.
Very well.
We can continue.
We also looking at the capacity, because we need capacity in order to address the problem. Already we know it is a problem. We also looking at the safety-led regulatory reforms. That is also another strategic direction that the ministry is also taking. And the post-crash as well is also another strategic direction that the ministry with stakeholders are taking. There comes in how we take care of the trauma, the traumatic patients. Blue, to be precise, the road crash victims. So all these are strategic directions that the ministry is taking together with the stakeholders.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you, the National Roads Authority, earlier on, Mr. Gassama talked about the 3 E's. So now with the engineering bit, isn't it? That's really within your remit. But when we look at the state of the roads, what do you have to say for yourself?
Well, the state of the roads, you know, road construction and the maintenance, these are our areas where we build roads at the same time where we maintain them. And every paved road in this country is being maintained by us. And we have our units everywhere in the country where which we call them the maintenance unit. And this maintenance unit are responsible in fixing back the damaged portion. You know, if I don't want to use the pothole, the damaged portion, and that is, and that's why we are here. When we say engineering doesn't start at only the physical thing that you are saying on the on outside. That is the pavement. It starts with the visibility studies. You know, we don't just get up and as engineers and give you any kind of road. A road that is being constructed, that has to be constructed, first the feasibility studies has to come, and during that feasibility studies, that's where we cater for the amount of or the volume of traffic that will ply on the road. So basically, the strength. That's where you calculate the strength. We have our own way of taking what we call traffic count. Traffic count, like for example, when the OIC road was coming, applying on the Batin Hardin Highway, at certain areas you will see in interval, you will see kind of a wire cross on both sides of the road, and you have the equipment there. And as the vehicle keep passing every time, you know, it keeps recording, and that will give you the volume, and that will give you what type of road that environment will need. So we'll from there, then we'll have our data. The data will give us the type of road that has to be built. And after building the road, of course, the safety, people think, most of the people think, you only apply the safety when the road is finished. No, before, during, and after safety. Even during the construction, when you go on site, you will see our safety guys with the signs, and so sometimes they will close here. You have the flag men or flag boys around there. So the engineering, the road has to be shaver in order to reduce the crisis on our roads. And our roads, of course, we have our roads, we have our highways, we have our feeder roads. We are not saying the roads that you build, they will, in fact, of course, a road is open for maintenance the day you open it for, you say you're ready constructing the road. So basically, it's a continuous process. We are here, we're building road. We are not only building road, but we're also maintaining our roads so that this road crisis will be minimized on our road. Road will be safe first, and then the vehicle will be safe. You have a road safer roads, safer vehicles, then we can attain the lesser fatality on our roads.
That's it. But some people, I'm going to have to dig you in there for a bit. Some people they say that we spend so much money building roads, not so much on road safety. Mm-hmm. So you've given us all these studies, granted, but from your studies, when you come up with certain policies, now to implement them, that's a problem. We will come back to that. You have to address that. I'll come to you now. The WHO, how does it come in?
Excellent. As I said in the last program, WHO is a technical organization. Mm-hmm. Its mandate is to generate the science that will help countries, that will guide countries to take informed decisions. Because WHO is not there to implement for countries, but it's there to advise. And that advice cannot be done without science. So you have to generate the science. Cost-effective interventions. Interventions that can, you know, they can really save lives. They can be very effective without necessarily costing a lot. So this is what WHO scientists are on the clock, around the clock, trying to, you know, dig out to make sure that the science is there, the evidence, the research is done, so that countries are well armed to take initiatives on their own. So as I said, these before, if you look at, I'm giving a theory, a model that was that is widely used. In fact, this was discovered by William Harding Jr. in the United States way back in 1974. He is one of the scientists, you know, in road safety, you know, road safety engineers. And his model, as I said, is if you look at the three, like one is a big box, the environment, which he's talking about, and you're talking about the human element. Now, each of these we can spend a whole 2 programs on it. So one, let's look at the human element. First of all, you ask yourself, why, when you look at that human aspect, why, what are the causes first? What are the causes? Why is it that the human error? What can we do to tackle the human error? Looking at that box first. Now, here is where you talk about risk factors. Why do we, what mistakes do we make as humans on the road? And there are many mistakes. We take risk, we violate, and of course, we cause damage as humans. So one of them is, we will still talk about, is speeding. Why? If speeding is one of the factors that is responsible for killing people on the road or making people injured in crashes. So what do we do about that? That's a human error. So we now have to devise, you know, mechanisms, measures that will impede the speed, that will limit the speed. Because as I said before, speed is a killer. You only have 30%, a 90% chance of surviving when you are hit by a car, an adult. An adult hit by a car traveling at 30 kilometers per hour has only 90% chances of surviving. It means that the person can die. And that reduces when you are at 50. So what do you do now with speed? There are many. In fact, that is why he's here also. He will add something on that. The road infrastructure, the made in road is also, made is also one that can also help in reducing the speed. That's what the speed calming, you know, measures. I will leave that to him when he comes to that. But what we can say around speeding is that is a human error, and the human error, again, human being is a very complex being. What do you tackle with that? Because that person maybe has some psychosocial whatever, psychological whatever problem, or maybe the car that the person is driving, because it's a very new car, you know, the person is also young, because what we see in speeding is usually the novice drivers, young drivers. Not all. Old people will not, because they know I have my family at home. They will not drive very fast. It's the youngsters now. And I'm seeing one, when I see it, I am very terrified. Now, youngsters are now, I don't know, either they rent cars, and you see them like flying the cars. And they make those noise, and making sure, trying to show that they are the best driver. That is, it's very sad. And because I saw that the impact of speed, which is I don't want to explain that now, because we explained in the last program. So how do you tackle? Of course, you have to educate. That's why we are here. Give the evidence surrounding speed. We did it before, and now the road infrastructure will also help. My brother will say more about that. Those are the traffic calming measures that you can use to make sure. And speeding also should also, one thing also, enforcement. It's another very important
to deter
aspect.
Drivers, yes.
Yeah, to deter. Why? Because if human beings, we know, there are so many research done, that when enforcement can really reduce the number of, accidents by about 30% or so. If we enforce. So that human being, to deal with that human being, you also have to enforce. Enforce the law, and usually enforce with fines, and it really reduces. In fact, that's what the developed worlds are using. So you use maybe sophisticated equipment like cameras, radars, and you name them. So once you are caught speeding, you are fined, and you are charged automatically. It has reduced the number of accidents caused by speeding. So all these things are elements that are associated with the human factor, without going to the other box yet. And this is just a fraction of it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Isn't that really what the challenge is? I mean, the education is one bit, but it goes along with others for anybody to see the effect, isn't it? And the ministry, that's really part of your challenge,
Yes, no system is perfect. And then this is why all stakeholders come and all hands are on deck to see to it that we do something to avert or to avoid these menace on our roads.
But some systems do better than others. No system is perfect, but some systems work better than others. True, isn't it? Absolutely.
Very true. Very true. But the issue here is, it has to do with attitude, people's attitude on our roads. So how do we address that? We bring in stringent laws, very strict laws, and then the punishment and the penalties, we apply them. So how do we do that? Like in the case of speeding, we need to capacitize the law enforcement agencies. How do we do that? Be it material or human resource. We provide speed radars, breathalyzers to monitor the activities of the drivers on our roads. Or perhaps we build some of these speed calming measures, be it speed hump, be it speed table, to deter drivers from speeding. And also we erect signboards, speed limit signs, to communicate to drivers. They should not exceed the speed limits at particular zones, especially accident-prone areas.
But have you realized that in all these categories that you've mentioned, have you been doing well? Because we need to do this, because that means we've not done well in the past. That's obvious, isn't it? That's logically obvious. So what's been the problem with doing these things well? We keep on starting all over all the time, don't we, really?
Yes, like I said, it's attitudinal, and it takes time. It is attitudinal, but I can tell you we're doing it. Because not long ago, I think that was last year, the ministry procured a few breathalyzers and speed radars to, to give it to the law enforcement officers for them to monitor the speeding on our roads and other, irregularities happening on our roads. So we are coming up, but these things are gradual, and the sensitization also is ongoing, so that to raise people's awareness not to be involved in violations on our roads.
Good. So that will take us on to the other point. So here, it seems that the guilty party is the attitude of people's attitude.
Very well.
Granted, but the National Roads Authority, would you take some bit of it? Because how things are designed, sort of, they influence, don't they? They are part of whatever is going on, of the users of that thing, isn't it? Would that be a part of it as well? Is it just simply people's attitudes? Is it simply that? I wonder.
Mr. Mboj, I will tell you, I can bet on that one. Our attitude, if we do not change it, we can pave the whole roads in this country. We can bring 3 stars or whatever stars class roads in this country with all road furnitures, reflective, highly reflective road signs, fully information. But our attitude, if we did not change it, Gambians, in fact, all of us, we are all at fault. That's why we are registering these deaths and these road crashes on our roads. Mr. Mboj, our behavior, Gambian, I will put it in that. I will not involve non-Gambians. I mean the Gambians. Because if you come to my home, you should behave the way I behave. So if foreigners behave otherwise, it's us. So if we do not change, the government will build. I'm telling you, if we continue with this habit, our new OIC road that is coming from the airport to down to Sting Corner, then you were saying last year the police said they recorded how many deaths? 55?
155.
155.
In 2021.
I'm telling you, it's going to triple. With our new roads coming, it's going to triple because we ignore the road signs. Where you should not overtake, you will overtake. Where you should not U-turn, you U-turn. You give your kid a car who is going to school. He just mentioned something here, that 360. The adults are not doing it. The school-going kids are doing it. Where are they getting the vehicle from? From the adults. So we should start at our home. We fail our kids. You giving your child that car to drive, he doesn't go through the driving system. Our laws are saying you go 3 months training. On top of that, you have to add another 3 months when you go back. If you still the tester, the guy who is going to test you, is not satisfied with you, it's still going to take you 9 months or even beyond that. Then you can be given a driver's license. But the first one you should be given a learner's driver's license. Who among us is doing that now? We said it's a time waste. Of course, we're blaming the police. We should not blame the police. We should blame ourselves.
But why not? They are the ones that issue these licenses. They've got their criteria. Exactly. If somebody doesn't fulfill the criteria, we shouldn't give it to you. So I'm not sure, what do you mean by shouldn't blame the police?
We should not blame the police. In that means, every society you have the rotten ones. I know
including rotten police.
That's what I'm saying. They're part of it. We're all part of it. Be the NRA officials or WHO or the police. You have rotten officials everywhere, every corner. Even our mosques or churches, you have them. So the rotten ones are the ones doing this business. But you should value your life. You should value the life of your child. That's why I'm saying the parents or the guardians will fail our kids. The road accident, it's not more accident. These are crises. The crisis, we cause it for ourselves. So I am saying the attitude, if we do not change our attitude, it doesn't matter. Just this month, the National Roads Authority procured 172 highly reflective road signs to replace the old ones. But guess what? Most of them, when I came here, one of your staff was telling me he wanted to do a program where he will be going on the road to show signs to the drivers. I told him not only the drivers, even the passerby or the student, all the road users, you will be amazed. The road signs, basic road signs, people don't know it in this country.
That's quite interesting. Maybe that is a failure, as an institutional failure as well. But I will come to you, Mr. Gassama. Yeah. Here I'm going to sort of set the cat among the pigeons. It appears as if the three elements that you mentioned, one of them the human element, it appears that we've given it a kind of disproportionate sort of culpability, blame, as it were, in this, much more than the other two elements. The engineering bit, the enforcement bit, and all that. What do you say about that?
This is a fact, you see, because let's look at them. If you look at the human element, as I said at the beginning, these 95% almost, of all these crashes we are talking is by human error. And that human is very important. So can you imagine? So the human has to outweigh others. Because why?
That's it. But here, when you say human error, we're talking about here the mistakes that people make.
Yeah, that's the human factor.
Isn't it? That's it.
Whether in engineering or whether in obey or enforcement or whether so the human element is very important. I think what the road authorities do is to construct the road, make it, safe. Because what we are saying here is safer road user, and of course, safer vehicles. These are very important. Now, even if you are given a safer vehicle, the driver has to make sure that he or she, obeys the law. So that's why I'm saying the human element is very critical in this, although it's not the only factor. But here, like a good example, we are only mentioning about speed. What about using alcohol? It's not the vehicle that consumes alcohol. The vehicle could be fine, but if the driver now consumes alcohol, we all know that 5 to 35% of all the road crashes are as a result of people, driving under the influence of alcohol.
But I wonder, do we have any data on the most common cause or most common causes, you can't have many, of accidents? I wonder whether we have data, because we keep talking about we lack data in all of these things, but it's important to know what is the most common cause of accidents, perhaps to deal with that. What do you think? Do we?
For the Gambia?
For the Gambia?
Okay, I don't know. Maybe the police might be in a better position. But I know that they have also got, I'm very happy about the risk factors they also, document. One of them is speeding, and one of them is influence of alcohol, and one of them, of course, is driving, vehicle that is also conform to standard, and that have also dangerous overtaking, reckless driving. All those things are all human behavior. I don't know how many each of them contributes. Anyway, I may not be able to answer that. Globally, that's a different dimension.
I'm granted there. So here, the talk is of change, which makes me wonder. Now, where does change begin? Does it begin with individuals or with institutions? Who initiates it? What is the driving force? Because we've been talking about this for a long time. So we have to think about methods, isn't it? Methods that would work. Where does change begin? When you think about this, what would be your contribution to this? After all, this is awareness, and awareness is supposed to change. How come it doesn't always do what we expect it to do?
I would say the change has to begin with individuals. Because it's these individuals that we put in our institutions for them to drive the institutions.
But you also realize that when I go to an institution,
yes,
and the institution has a culture, I adapt myself to it. It's just that when I go to an institution, there's no culture. Anybody can do whatever you want. Then you don't have that. So some people say that when an institution works properly,
yes,
individuals will adapt. When the institution is not working, individuals wouldn't. I hope you realize the fundamental problem we face here from what intellectuals write about. What do you think? What do you make of it?
Anyway, I wouldn't say much about that.
Okay.
But
you think they should begin with individuals?
It should begin with individuals.
All right.
Because we all come from homes.
All right.
Before we go to institutions. So those characters that we develop at our homes, we take those same characters to our institutions. And in fact, sometimes we personalize institutions. So I would say the change has to begin from ourselves, individual selves. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And earlier on you said, these crashes, they are not accidents. What a curious bit. Were you suggesting that they were avoidable? That sort of thing. Go more into that. Maybe it's important for people to understand these things. Because we have this habit of saying whenever there's a tragedy or a crisis, it's the divine will, it's providential. We don't see how much actually what we do contributes to that. Go into that.
I'll give you one example why I said they are not accidents.
All right.
We all know the definition of accident. And crashes, why we are saying road crashes, say the South Bank Road, what you majority are saying Trans-Gambia, from Brikama down to Basse or so. We realized sometime ending of last year and beyond that, we registered a lot of road crashes on that point. And that is namely Fonyi, Kiang, or even going to Basse or so. Drivers somersault with their vehicles. Drivers head collision, head to head, killed several people on that road. So during around February or March, he mentioned the ministry together with the National Roads Authority, we capacitize the police through some equipment. We give them vehicles, and that vehicle, we form a task force. The task force is to go down and look into the causes of that crisis that we were registering on the road. And we came back, some will be saying, the devils, those are the devil zones. That's why vehicles normally, they have crisis on that end. But I keep telling people, there's no devil on our roads. The devil's there are ourselves. And prove me wrong, if we send police officers, IG supply us with a lot of police officers, not only the traffic police, because the traffic unit is a small unit, but give us more men on that road. Every 200 meters, we have police point. Basically, they are not there to check or document or so, but they're there to deter the speed. You know, he was mentioning about the speed. And when we did this from Brikama to Kalaji, up to today, you know, we did not receive or get any fatal accident. We gave them those two vehicles, and the vehicles left here at 7 o'clock, Canifing, and they traveled down to Kalaji and come back. So they were crisscrossing. So the drivers, what they do, they know the police are present on that road. They reduce speed. They are not knocking. You know, normally before the Eid prayers, you know, people traveling to provinces to for the Eid, they have accidents. Most of them have road crashes on the road. They die. Some lose their parts of their body. But this time, what happened is, I was sitting at home. I saw one network, online media, wrote traffic jam on the South Bank Road. What happened? The police were there. They stopped them. You go slowly, slowly. And they all went fine and they came back. So what I'm saying here is that the accident is not the accident. People do this thing. You know, we all contributed. I'm not pointing fingers to anybody, but we could avert to this. We could stop this crisis on our road. It's unnecessary thing that is happening, and it's killing and is endangering people's life here.
Absolutely, but there you just prove that enforcement.
Yes, yes.
Because they've got these checkpoints.
Yes.
That play the point.
Very.
But again, it's quite curious that you can have other countries where they do not have checkpoints, but they do not have these problems as high as we do.
Yeah.
So you do have this. I got there.
Yeah, I think this is it. You will now.
This is the key, isn't it?
Yes.
So now,
yeah.
I wonder.
This is a very important question. If I can start by saying, this is a big animal. It's a dinosaur. You know, you need to really be strong, and you have to. It's a very complex phenomenon. There is no one size fits all. If you want to tackle road safety, if you want to see reduction in number of crashes we have, in the number of injuries we have, in the number of deaths we have as a result of road traffic crashes, we have to look at five key areas. And they are all important. They have to work together. And that's what we call a systems approach. Not only a systems approach. That is one, leadership. And that's what WHO recommends. There has to be a lead agency, fully funded, fully capacitized, independent. That's the first option. Independent. They do their business, they are fully funded. In fact, some countries have done in Nigeria, I think, others, they have their own cabinet, I can say. Some countries...
Is this the same as this Vision Zero? Apparently,
implemented in Sweden in the 1997.
Is it the same?
That's the system. That's what you call the safe system. Yeah, the Swedish model is now being used by the entire world because it has really proven, it has proven effective. One, because the whole thing is about we will not be able to avoid human error. People will definitely still continue to speed, still continue to make mistakes, but what do we do? The system has to be in place that will be able to accommodate those shocks. And when they come, our hospitals are ready. When they come, our roads are ready. Even the vehicles themselves, the vehicles should be designed in a way that the impact, because some of those vehicles are not here. The vehicles, they front impact. So that when you hit a human being, because of the vehicle, the way it's designed, it will lessen the injury. And those are the ones that we don't have. Can you compare to our jele-jeles? It's not possible. So this is what we call a safe system. But again, as I said, the 5 elements is very important. One is the leadership. We need to have a dedicated agency. That's what WHO recommends. If countries cannot afford that, if they could have a ministry that will be responsible. And I'm glad the Gambia has a ministry that is coordinating this. The other one is you have to have safer road users. They have to be safe. How can they be safe? You have to reduce exposure to the traffic system. Exposure to the traffic system means how do you demarcate that line so that people are not very, close to the road. And that's what the Western world are doing. That motorways, you can fly, don't mind, nobody's there. Because there is a separation between that traffic and the human being. So that's what you call safety. And also, people have to have a way to walk. People have to have bicycle. They can cycle. You go to Europe, that's what is happening there. And again, that impacts on the land. That's why the land ministry is coming. Where is the land? So if they don't have land, what can you do now? So you have to have enough land first. It needs a good planning. And this is what is lacking in most of the developing countries. So you have to have enough land so that people can be safe on the road. They can walk, they can cycle, they can do whatever. And they are separated from the traffic. And one important thing again is safer vehicles. Safer vehicle, the vehicles that you are flying on or you are riding or whatever, they must be safe. They must have to be on the standard. They have to have some standards. And those standards, if they are not there, a good example is I keep the example. Before even there is a crash, you are already wounded. That naked metal. Yeah. You enter, if you are not careful, you are wounded. Much more when you have a crash. That's safer vehicle. Now, safer, road, what do you call it? The post-crash.
Absolutely. The emergency care.
Emergency, that also is important. That's why maybe next time you'll have doctors come here to explain. So you have to look at all these things. The vehicle has to be there. The people using it has to be there. The leadership has to be there. All these things should be, and people, safe road users also. They are all important. But one thing to summarize is we have to move. We know why the road traffic crashes are limited in the developed world is because, as I said at the beginning, in this program, we only have 1% of the vehicle developing world. We contribute to 13%. And these big countries, developed countries, they have 40%. They own 40% of the world fleet. And they only contribute 7% of the road crashes. Why? Then what is important is we need to know is they have developed efficient transport system. Efficient transport system means reduce the dependence on cars. This scenario is shared very soon. If you look at a car, you are 10 times, a passenger in the vehicle, you are 10 times likely to be killed than a passenger in a coach or in a bus. So you see why, that's why they are now saying we need to reduce buses. That's why when you go, buses are everywhere in the developed world. Again, the comparison is coming again. Cars, again, 10%, that 10% to coach. But it's 20% to train. If you are in a car, you have 20 times likely to be killed as a passenger than somebody in a train. So you can see, these are what you call safe transport modes.
Absolutely there.
So you see now, are we moving towards that direction?
But what a fantastic point, because once you made the link between being a low-income, middle-income country and the high incidence of accidents, then I was inclined to ask, then is this an economic question? Much more than a personal one. so you are in this, Mr. Kasama.
Yes.
I mean, you guys have just presented a rather complex and very, very difficult. This vista, extraordinary. So you've got all these multifactorial inputs, as it were. What can we expect from the Ministry of Transport? What is it that you can do in this medley of so many different inputs?
Thank you for that question. Not the ministry alone.
Absolutely. But what's your role? What's your contribution?
Yes, the ministry's role.
Who coordinates it? Who coordinates all of these different stakeholders?
I am coming.
Okay, thank you.
The ministry's role, meaning the Minister of Transport role in this, is to coordinate the activities of these committees or these working groups. Yes.
So you coordinate all of this?
We coordinate the road safety activities in the country.
That's NRA. Where do you sit at that table of stakeholders?
Well, we're like any
you propose policy, obviously, and stuff like that. And what else? You build things.
Yes, the policy makers are there. That's the ministry, and of course is our.
You're operational.
We are operational. We implement. So where we complement is we make sure we provide safer roads, like he said, and also being in this technical committee and the working group is to add up our ideas in the way we think will be the way forward, the way we think this committee can be changed and to be an agency or an authority in the future, like it happens in other countries like Ghana. Now, from the agency, now they are authority, road safety authority, and basically their work is to coordinate and all road safety activities in a country. Like in our institution, my institution, we have the road safety department. That is a unit. But basically, our work is to make sure we have that safer road that we're going to present at the end of the day. So who will be coordinating it? In road construction, like a design, if we now have an agency, like you said, leadership, the lead agency, any road or any proposed road that we have, it must have to go through the agency for approval, the standard, to make sure the road is safer before we implement. You know? So like that will tell you we cannot be a referee at the same time a player. We might not be fair. So that's why it's important to have the agency, the road safety agency, that will be also coordinating or also be supervising our work.
Absolutely. We're coming towards the end. I'll begin with you. What would be your parting thoughts, as it were, given the situation that we face, especially when I look at this really awful statistic, out of 183 countries, we are 8th when it comes to road traffic accidents. Extraordinary. So what is it that people must know out there, the key takeaways?
Yes, I think road safety is everybody's business. We have to avoid the risk as much as possible. The risks are, you as a road user, you have to make sure that you know how to cross that road. You as a road user, because you are a driver, you know what happens when you drink, you know what happens when you speed, you know what happens when you don't use seat belts, because with seat belt is also important. All these things is important. So the risk factor, we should minimize as much as possible the risk that will either put you into getting put into crash, or maybe that also can lead to death. So that's it.
Absolutely, and the ripple effect. One person die, a whole family might suffer. Your key takeaways, just 1 or 2, 30 seconds.
Yes, like Mr. Gesama said, it's a very complex, subject. But the population size also counts. Let's say 5 deaths in the Gambia is very significant compared to 5 deaths in Nigeria. Absolutely,
fantastic point there. And your parting shot?
I will conclude this by saying let's all help in our own homes, starting from our homes, to make sure our kids know the signs, how to use the road that is crossing. Because every student that goes to school, there will be a point that you will need a road, either to travel, to go long, or to cross the road. So it's important to know the basic signs of the road, which I am very happy the committee just started this year, going to the schools to make sure they know road signs, they know how to use the road.
Absolutely. Thank you very much there, Mr. Bakari Mane from the National Roads Authority. And sitting on my immediate right here, there's Mr. Ansumana Kasama from the Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure. And on my left here, Mr. Mamadou Gassama of the World Health Organization. This was a Ministry of Transport program on how to prevent crashes on our roads. Thank you very much. Until next time, I'm Mamadou Mouj. Good night.